Good afternoon. Let me introduce you my PhD topic, how to optimize the surgical treatment in ulcerative colitis. My name is Tóth, and I have a vision to provide the best achievable therapy to IBD patients. For that, I have the mission to contribute to the clarification of some questionable parts in the surgical care of IBD patients. We work on that with my supervisor, Pál Miheller, my scientific methodology supervisor, Anett Rancz, my co-investigator, Hungarian Székely, my statisticians, and my project student. Here you can see my ongoing projects. Both of them is in connection with the total proctocolectomy with ileal pouch channel anastomosis in ulcerative colitis patients. The first project is a comprehensive analysis of the effect of obesity on postoperative complications in UC patients. This is a systematic review and meta-analysis. Just some sentences about the background. The prevalence of ulcerative colitis is around 200 per 100,000 people. Around 1/5 of these patients will need to have colectomy, and the majority of these operations are elective. On the other hand, approximately 1 in 2 adult UC patients are overweight or obese. The effect of obesity is uncertain now. So our aim is to investigate the effect of obesity on postoperative complications in UC patients. We have the question whether obesity is associated with early and late postoperative complications in UC patients. We use the PICO framework to answer this, where the P are adult UC patients undergoing colectomy, ENC are the obese and non-obese patient population, and our outcomes was the early and late postoperative complications. Our hypothesis is that obesity increases the rate of early and late postoperative complications in UC patients. In this figure, you can see the importance of prehabilitation with the blue line and with the orange line, and the cases if there were no prehabilitation. We did a systematic search to answer this question last November. We have found more than 6,000 hits, and we have 3 eligible full text at the end of the selection process. I'd like to show you 3 outcomes what we can analyze. The first one is the length of hospital stay. We included 3 retrospective cohort studies. The first and the second one was propensity score match studies. We used the mean difference as a measure of effect, and at the end of the analysis, we got 0.36, which means to us that obese patients spend more time in hospital with an average of 6 hours. This is not clinically relevant. On the next forest plot, you can see the overall complication rate in 30 days. We included the same 3 retrospective cohort studies. The measure of effect was odds ratio. At the end of our analyze, this was 1.08. This was not statistically significant, neither clinically relevant again. And on the last forest plot, you can see the septic complications in 30 days. This is the most feared complication. This is why we analyzed that separately. At the end of our measure, this result was not clinically relevant too. The certainty of evidence of our meta-analysis was very low. In conclusion, we can say that there was no significant difference between the investigated groups. So our implication for practice is that obesity with this cutoff value is not a primary consideration in prehabilitation, but it is worth to need more investigation to analyze more types of complications, stratified BMI categories, and long-term complications. Our study has strengths and limitations. Our strength is that this is the first comprehensive data from high-quality studies, valuable data sets, and we use rigorous methodology. The low number of included studies, the type of the studies, and the lack of separate data about different complications and BMI categories limits our analysis. Here you can see our manuscript status. Today we send out our manuscript to internal review. And we would like to submit our manuscript in this October. My second project is a comparison of the hands-on anastomosis with stapled in UC patients undergoing colectomy. This is a systematic review and meta-analysis too. I just would like to highlight some important information about the background. Again, about 1/5 of the patients will need to have colectomy. Colectomy with ileal pouch canal anastomosis is a gold standard surgery in UC patients. This is why it is so important to have more information to the types of the anastomosis. This can perform with hands-on and stapled. There is a shift from hands-on to stapled anastomosis from 2000. Our aim is to compare the different types of anastomosis on surgical outcomes in UC patients. Our question is whether hands-on anastomosis is associated with fewer long-term postoperative complications in UC patients. We used a PICO framework for that, where we compared the hands-on and stapled anastomosis type in UC patients undergoing proctocolectomy with IPA, and our outcomes was the long-term and the early postoperative complications. Our hypothesis is that the hands-on anastomosis is associated with fewer long-term postoperative complications. The clinical implication would be that with the use of hands-on anastomosis, we can decrease the potential inflammation and malignant transformation of the pouch. We have a preliminary search key with 3 domains. The first reflects to the disease, the second is about the operation, and the third is about the type of the operation. We have more than 5,000 hits with that. We have 3 key articles. It is interesting to see that there is a shift from the first to the last study, from the hands-on to the stapled anastomosis type, and both of us investigated the late complications. It is interesting because one of them reported that hands-on anastomosis has more anastomotic strictures. The others found more fistulas in the case of stapled anastomosis, and the third said that there is no difference between the 2 groups. Here you can see that there is a previous systematic review and meta-analysis on this topic from 2006, but they focused on the quality of life, and they not just involved UC patients, but FAP patients too. Here are the summary of my projects, and I thank you for your attention with a quote from Confucius: "Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you for the great presentation. I was wondering, do you see any chance of getting the patient-level data for your first project, because there are only like 3 studies, if I recall correctly, so maybe it's worth a shot. I don't know.
I've sent out more than 50 emails to the authors, and I didn't get any raw data, unfortunately.
So congratulations. Do you consider that if patients were categorized as overweight and obese, would have been there a difference regarding the outcome of the events? Because it's common sense to consider that patients who are obese are going to have more postoperative complications in general.
Yes, there was one study that categorized differently the overweight and obese patients, but they didn't find any statistically significant difference. It would be important to see this, but we have no separate data for that, unfortunately.
And another question, if it's allowed. What prehabilitation in the daily clinical practice means? Is there any strict criteria or the definition for this? Or it's individualized and based on our knowledge, basically?
As an everyday clinical practice before surgery, there are some aspects in what we can do prehabilitation, for example, in diabetic patients or in case of hypertension, but in case of obesity, in most cases, there are not long period of time to do prehabilitation in these cases. But it was interesting to see that it would be worth or not for me.
You said in your second project that hands-on anastomosis may perform better than stapled.
Yes.
Why do you think that is the case? Because we haven't seen any data yet to prove that.
Yes,
So your preliminary data suggests that, and if yes, why?
No, the preliminary data suggest small differences in case of strictures and fistulas, but we thought that because in the long-term period, this is important that patient had mucosectomy or not, and in case of stapled anastomosis, this is more difficult to do a total mucosectomy, but in case of stapled anastomosis, this can be performed. This is why we thought that there will be a difference.